Disney has lost sight of what they are supposed to do, which is create entertainment. They are so worried about hiring activists and checking off boxes that they no longer are in touch with what their fans actually want from them. And of course, the Acolyte was a major disaster, cost them hundreds of millions of dollars and years worth of development time just for people to point and laugh at it constantly. But now Leslye Headland's wife is only making things even worse because she is once again blaming fans for the Acolyte's cancellation and touting the Star Wars show's ratings as though there's something to brag about when they most certainly are not. But before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, the Force is certainly not female. It is fine to have female characters who use the Force, but that should not be the total direction for this franchise. But that's the one Kathleen Kennedy went in, and that's why she decided to hire people like Rebecca Henderson and Leslye Headland, who are not good at their jobs at all whatsoever, and they are really paying the price for their actions. This is a major problem right now, is people are not being hired because they are talented or because they are passionate, because they love a franchise. They are only being hired because they check off certain boxes, and Leslye Headland's been in the industry for a very long time as Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant, and she happens to be a lesbian, so she checks off a lot of boxes, and she should have never been handed a franchise like this or a project with this much money behind it. So the cast of The Acolyte continues to tout the show's ratings, despite the fact that objective numbers showed that hardly anybody watched it. I did give The Acolyte a chance, like I do every show and game that I talk about on this channel, and it was god awful. I was so disappointed. Now, of course, over the years, I've come to expect less and less of Disney, but it is mind-boggling that they had that much money, hundreds of millions of dollars, just to put out a really bad and, in my opinion, low-quality Star Wars fan fiction. This should have stayed on AO3. However, this group of people seem insistent on doubling down and trying to blame anyone but themselves or the creator, showrunner, and Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, Leslye Headland, for the show's cancellation. Instead, Leslye Headland's wife is putting the blame where it really belongs, on you, and I guess me. The fallout from The Acolyte's disastrous performance continues, but rather than accepting reality, Rebecca Henderson has decided to lash out at fans for like the 50th time. Tell me again they canceled the show because no one watched it, and not because you know why. But juxtapose that with the fact that those big IP franchises were still the best performing series on Disney Plus, and the solution becomes unclear. Percy Jackson was the top dog on Disney Plus last year, with over 3 billion minutes viewed, and The Acolyte came in second place with 2.7 billion, which might sound big when you're just viewing these numbers in a bubble, but really, these numbers are not big at all whatsoever. And if you really read between the lines, she's just saying this failed because of ists and phobes. Her commentary was, tell me again they canceled the show because no one watched it, not because you know why, which she just means racism or sexism or bigotry, because this happened to have a woman of color as the lead, because there are all different sorts of ethnicities of people behind this and different sexualities in this show. It's not that we are racists or sexist, it's that we are sick and tired of bad content. Maybe you should blame the people who created this show for its failure. It's not our fault we didn't like it. It's their fault that they didn't create something that people could enjoy. It was a cringe fest. You had girl bosses galore. The cinematography was okay at times. I think that that's the best credit I can really give this, and overall it was just a really mediocre experience. We're not racist and sexist for criticizing it. It's your fault that this wasn't done better. And if you do what the image says, which is read the entire report here, you'll see that the very article she shared contains the truth about the show's failure. Anyone who actually read it would realize that The Acolyte being Disney Plus's second most watched series is not a victory. It's It's a devastating and scathing indictment of Disney's struggles because the Acolyte's rank on Disney Plus means absolutely nothing. Had LHW or anyone else actually clicked on the full report, I'm assuming she did and is banking on the fact that you won't, they would have quickly seen that being the second most watched show on Disney Plus isn't something to brag about. It's proof of how far the platform has fallen. And as we previously reported, the Acolyte had pulled in 2.7 billion minutes watched, which might sound decent until you compared it to the industry standard. And if you look at something like Netflix's Love is Blind, it pulled in 7.3 billion minutes viewed. That's nearly 3 times the viewership of the Acolyte. And this is what happens when you put people in charge of a franchise or a product and they do not have any love or respect or passion for it. Leslye Headland was hired because she wanted to push things like identity politics. She didn't give a fuck about Star Wars and what made Star Wars special in the first place. She just was hired because she was willing to desecrate it, because she was willing to tear it apart, because she had no emotional connection to it. She was willing to swoop in and modernize Star Wars, but that has not been going well. And it is sad to see that we got another series that was another pile of trash and a bunch of more money wasted, when really they could have just given us, I don't know, something like an Obi-Wan season 2, right? Even though that series did have some issues, it was still way better than something like The Acolyte. If you actually look at these numbers, Netflix completely dominated the rankings with 7 of the top 10 spots, while Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime also made the list. Disney was completely absent, and they deserve it. When you are not making content for fans, the fans are not going to show up, and you deserve to fail. We also had just found out that Disney Plus lost 700,000 subscribers last quarter. And sure, when you're talking about this many people subscribe to one service, you might be saying to yourself, yeah, it's not that much, but it is still a major dip for them. And even this has led to people pointing and laughing at them, saying Disney messed around with DEI and they're finding out the consequences. This is what happens when you're continually increasing subscription prices. And true, I'm not saying that identity politics is the only reason why they have lost subscribers, because let's be honest, it certainly isn't, but that doesn't help. On top of increasing subscription prices and the fact that they are not putting out series or just content consistently enough. It will take them months to put out something new. And I know Netflix recently has been struggling with this too. They have definitely slowed down compared to the way that they were pumping out products even 2 or 3 years ago. But people are talking about how they've canceled because they are just not vibing with the content they're creating anymore. Disney Plus stinks. Unless you're a 6-year-old just trying to watch Pixar movies on loop, there's no reason to have it. Disney's stock is plummeting just like the Embracer Group. Good, get woke, go broke. That's because it should still be $6.99. Subscriber count going down, time to raise the prices again. And this also is a very big effect that happens where a company sees that they are losing subscribers. So they say, well, we need to take a little bit more out of people, which in turn leads people to not wanting to pay more, and then they end up unsubscribing. These companies just don't know how to play this game properly. They don't know how to give people what they want, and when they do not, how to keep themselves afloat. They just keep, we're going to raise the price by $1 or raise the price by $2. And well, it's very quickly catching up to them. And it's just looking bad all around for Disney. Now, of course, I'm not going to shed any tears for Disney. I do not care. Over the past couple of years, they've put out really bad content. While yes, some have been good. Again, like Obi-Wan was pretty decent. Ahsoka was pretty decent. And The Mandalorian started off strong. Things like Agatha All Along are terrible. The Acolyte is terrible. I did not like The Bad Batch as much as I thought I was going to, and I know that people have been kind of conflicted on things like X-Men 97. Echo is number 4. Echo was also really cringeworthy and seemed very low budget. So we're just talking about a slate of content that all around people are not really enjoying. And it just goes to show how far Disney really has fallen over the years, especially with Star Wars specifically. And this individual, Rebecca Henderson, Leslye Headland's wife, is of course blaming us for its failure, not her wife, not other producers, not writers, not the actors, even. They are blaming us like it is our fault. We didn't shut up and swipe our credit card and consume this god awful content, which does not look good for you. It doesn't look good for your wife, and it certainly doesn't look good for Disney. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.